Hello. In this part 3, we'll deal with one of the characteristics of the community, that is vertical stratification. So we'll study community stratification in terrestrial habitat, for example, grassland community and forest community, and community stratification in aquatic habitat, that is lake community and marine community. So vertical stratification is one of the characteristics of the community. Let us define stratification. You know, strata means layer. So the different strata or layers between the soil surface are developed. So this layering pattern is called stratification. With respect to community stratification, the term stratification refers to the arrangement of different plants or animals or microorganisms in the different layers of the substratum and medium. So the community stratification is developed because of the processes such as adaptation, competition, and natural selection. And therefore, the different species of the community of a given region taking place through the process of adaptation, competition, and natural selection. The stratification may be due to separation between organisms in space or time. So in a given space or area, ecosystem can be stratified either vertically or horizontally. Organisms within ecosystem can show daily or seasonal pattern that separates them in time. So some organisms are diurnal, that is active during daytime. Some are nocturnal, that is active during nighttime. Therefore, they are separated depending upon the time. For some organisms show seasonal pattern. So in particular season, a particular stage of organism may occur in the ecosystem. So organisms within ecosystem, they show daily or seasonal pattern that separates them in time. The stratification for animal is not fixed since they move from one stratum to another in search of food or in response to numerous abiotic factors, that means environmental factor. The vertical stratification is defined as in biological communities, there is vertical arrangement or stratification, and each stratum has its own group of animals, plant, or microorganisms. For this stratification, sunlight is the main cause for development. The vertical stratification is due to interspecific competition, that is, the competition between the species for light and water in plants and for food in animals. This vertical stratification has two layers, the upper and lower stratum. The upper stratum of light penetration dominated by autotrophs. Autotrophs means the organisms which prepare their own food, for example plants. While lower stratum is the regenerative stratum. It contains accumulated organic matter and it is dominated by decomposers. In general, the vertical stratification of animals from top to bottom can be given as the animals which are common above the soil are turtles, snakes, some birds, insects, and number of mammals like rabbits, deers, etc. The animal species from seedling to higher strata are insects, snails, and squirrels, while animals inhabiting humus of soil are beetles, centipedes, mites, spiders, annelids, etc. Now we study the community stratification in terrestrial habitat. So in general, in terrestrial communities, complex stratification occurs. This is because the number of habitat increases with stratification and it enables large number of species to utilize effectively the solar energy following upon the area. So it consists of the emergent layer, that is about 15 meter. So it includes the plants which emerges out from the canopy layer. So the next layer is canopy layer. So canopy layer is the covering of the plants in a particular region. It extends from 10 to 15 meter. Below canopy layer is understory layer. It extends from 5 to 10 meter. It consists of the young plants of canopy layer. Then is the shrub layer, extend from 1 to 5 meter. It consists of shrubs, and below that is the herbs layer up to 1 meter. So this is in general stratification of the terrestrial habitat. Now we'll take the example of terrestrial habitat, that is grassland community, and we'll study the community stratification in grassland community. So grassland community shows three strata: subterranean stratum, floor stratum, and herbaceous stratum. The subterranean stratum contains the roots of vegetation. It is inhabited by soil bacteria, fungi, protozoa, earthworms, insects, snakes, and few rodents. The second stratum is the floor stratum. It contains basal portion of the vegetation, including rhizomes of grass plants. The animals in the floor stratum are insects, spiders, lizards, etc. And the third is the herbaceous stratum. It is formed by upper parts of the grasses and herbs. Because it is a grassland community, the majority plant is the grass. The variety of insects, birds, grazing mammals form the fauna of this stratum. So this diagram shows the community stratification in the grassland community. See, the lower stratum is subterranean stratum. It consists of roots of plants, soil bacteria, fungi, earthworms, insects, snakes, etc. The second is floor stratum. It consists of grass, insects, spiders, lizards, and the rhizomes of the plants. The third is herbaceous stratum. It contains grasses and herbs, insects, birds, grazing mammals, and carnivores. So this is the vertical stratification of grassland community. The next example of the terrestrial habitat is forest community. So stratification of land communities is at maximum complexity in the forest community. So it refers to the different layers of plants in forest rising from the forest floor to the tree canopy. So typically 6 vertical strata are present in the terrestrial habitat, it is in forest community. The first is overstory strata, second is understory strata, third is transgressive strata, fourth seedling stratum, then forest floor and subterranean stratum. So overstory strata is also called as the canopy. It is the highest vegetative layer in the forest. So it is topmost layer comprised of trees that are more than 40 feet in height, that is tallest trees. It represents highest limit of plant community in the given region. It makes up the canopy and receives full sunlight. So during growing season, canopy leaves interrupt or cut off much of the sunlight available to a forest. Since it is the topmost layer and covering the entire forest area, about 50% of the total amount of sunlight can pass through the canopy to plants in the forest layer below the canopy layer. Second layer is understory strata. It lies below overstory stratum. It is represented by shrubby life forms and younger individuals of the canopy species. It extends from 20 feet height to a short distance below overstory stratum. Primary vegetation in this region includes tree saplings or young trees with a slender trunk, shade-tolerant small trees, and tall shrubs. Third stratum is transgressive strata. It extends from 4 feet to 20 feet height. It is represented by herbaceous plants like grasses. Fourth is seedling strata. It begins at the soil level and extends to the lower limit of transgressive. It is layer of great biological activities. Fifth stratum is forest floor. This region is the zone of decomposition containing soil bacteria, fungi, and protozoans. And the sixth stratum is subterranean strata. It is the basal portion containing roots of plants, large amount of litter and debris of plants and animals. It contains a large amount of humus. So in these two pictures, you can see the six strata of the forest community. The emergent tree layer is the layer of the trees extending out of the canopy layer. Then overstory or dense canopy layer. So this is the dense covering of the tree in the forest region. Then understory layer. It consists of the young plants of the canopy layer, shrubs, herbs. Below herbs is the fifth stratum, that is forest floor, which consists of dead organic matter, litter, fungi, bacteria, and animals like mites, ants, etc. And the sixth layer is subterranean layer, which contains rich humus with roots of plants, soil fungi, bacteria, and protozoans. So animal life in the forest community is separated into different niches or habitat in relation to the strata. The main limiting factor for animal life are food, shelter, and microclimatic differences. So the microclimate, it varies or fluctuates, and based on that, the animals within a particular region, they vary. So since microclimate fluctuates, the classification of species by stratum is based on observations for sufficiently longer period of time. So a particular species of the animals, when observed in a particular region for a longer period of time, then that will be considered to be the animals belonging to that particular stratum. The inhabitants of six strata are divided into two major groups, ground society and foliage society. So this division is regarding the animal strata or animal community in a forest. So ground society includes forest floor and subterranean surface, while foliage society includes herbs, shrubs, and trees. However, there is no distinct boundaries between these two societies. To study the animal stratification in forest community, it is divided into two, the ground society and foliage society. Now, the ground animals such as millipedes, snails can climb up onto herbs or tree trunks, while foliage animals often rest on the ground for food, hibernation, or egg laying. So there is no distinct boundaries between the ground society and foliage society because the ground animals can move onto the foliage, where foliage animals such as birds and all can rest on the ground for food, hibernation, or egg laying. The largest number of mammals occur in the subterranean and ground strata, while the number of birds is largest in the canopy layer than that of the ground. Population density of invertebrates in lowest in shrubs and tree strata, medium in subterranean and herb strata, and highest in the surface strata. However, the population density of animals varies from one type of forest to other. Also, it shows variations depending upon the season, time, food, and other factors. The second habitat is aquatic habitat. So community stratification in aquatic habitat with respect to lake community and marine community. So aquatic communities also show vertical stratification. The stratification depends upon light intensity, wavelength, absorption, temperature, and hydrostatic pressure, that is water pressure, etc. So example of aquatic habitat is lake community. In lakes and deep ponds, three strata are distinguished. The first zone is littoral zone. It is the zone of shallow water region. in which light penetrates up to the bottom. This area is occupied by rooted plants. The second zone is sublittoral zone. It is also called as limnatic zone. It is the open water zone up to the depth of effective sunlight penetration. It is occupied by planktons. And third zone is profundal zone. It is the deepest part of the lake which extends beyond the depth of effective light penetration. This zone does not possess any photosynthetic organisms since the light cannot penetrate in this region, so there is no photosynthesis. The bottom mud of this zone contains only microorganisms, bacteria, and fungi. The second example of aquatic habitat is marine community. So community in the seawater is called marine community. It has 5 different zones. The first zone is eulittoral or neritic zone. This is shallow water zone of outer intertidal area close to shore. It has well oxygenated water, low water pressure, stable temperature, and salinity levels. So it supports the photosynthetic life of phytoplanktons. Second layer is oceanic or sublittoral zone. So this is the oceanic zone. It is also called as euphotic zone. This is the zone of open sea beyond the neritic zone up to the depth of effective light penetration. It is brightly lit upper zone extend up to the depth of about 200 meters from the surface. It has low nutrient level, high level of dissolved oxygen. It inhabits animals such as hydra, sea anemone, mytilus, chiton, acylians, large and fast swimming fish such as swordfish, shark, and bluefin tuna. The third zone is bathyal zone and the fourth is abyssal zone. So next zone is bathyal zone. It is middle zone receiving light or little sunlight. It has large wells and october. Many organisms have slow metabolic rates to conserve energy. The fourth zone is benthic zone. It is the zone beyond effective light penetration, that is from 200 meters to about 1000 meters from the surface. It has low oxygenated water and low temperature. Animals here feed on detritus or other animals. There is little or no plant life. Phytoplanktons, algae, diatoms are present. Zooplanktons include mollusks and protozoa. And the next fifth zone is abyssal zone. So this abyssal zone, it begins at 1000-meter depth. The characteristic of this zone are it is dark and cold. There is no photosynthesis since it doesn't receive sunlight. It has little dissolved oxygen. Therefore, this zone rarely has fauna and flora. Inhabitants of this zone are corals, crabs, lobsters, etc. So to summarize the stratification in the marine community, it has 5 zones: eulittoral or neritic zone, oceanic or sublittoral zone, bathyal zone, benthic zone, and abyssal zone. So here we will summarize the characteristic of the community, that is vertical stratification. So it is defined as arrangement of biotic community, that is different plants, animals, microorganisms in the different vertical layers of the substratum and medium. In this, we studied community stratification in terrestrial habitat. The example is grassland community and forest community. The grassland community has 3 strata: subterranean zone, floor zone, and herbaceous zone, while forest community has 6 strata: overstory zone, understory zone, transgressive zone, seedling zone, forest floor, and subterranean zone. The second example is community stratification in aquatic habitat. For example, lake community and marine community. Lake community has three zones: littoral zone, sublittoral zone or limnatic zone, and profundal zone, while marine community has five strata: eulittoral or neritic zone, oceanic or sublittoral zone, bathyal zone, benthic zone, and abyssal zone. In the part 4, we study ecotone and age effect and ecological succession. Thank you.